Isaac's car sped from his mansion, spitting gravel into the wind. He'd returned home to find Lynn gone. Ira said she'd went to see her mother. His mate, the whelp that she was unaware her mother was actually a Nacilla worm in a human host. The Nacilla should already have been assigned to a new location, not of this planet, and a new cub to rear. If the Nacilla still remained, Lynn's primal territorial instincts could drive her to injure, or most likely rip the Nacilla's mortal shell to shreds. His mate was alone in a world she no longer understood. Enemies she knew nothing of hunted her, and her reckless impulses risked leading them to her. Isaac gripped the steering wheel tighter and leaned on the gas. As he sped toward Lovecraft Lane, a pungent scent filled the car. Isaac jerked the wheel and brought the car to a stop on the shoulder. He jumped out and sniffed the air. His nose served as a compass. His muscles morphed, growing leaner. His teeth sharpened and his skin spread thick black fur. Shifting into his natural form, his clothes ripping away from his body. Spreading his wings, he charged into the sparse woods and rushed on all fours through the thicket of trees and shrubs. He burst through the dense greenery, across the highway, and took flight. Ignoring the polluting scent of diesel fuel from an 18-wheeler below, he reveled in her essence. His cock throbbed with anticipation. He soared at tree height and spotted Lynn on a motorcycle. Isaac's eyes glowed red as he dived and snatched Lynn from the bike. The Harley skidded, an unguided missile. Her feet dangled, swinging wildly. Lynn's yelp of surprise and protest echoed amongst the cries of a flock of blackbirds. He swooped, descending into the heart of Sacred Oaks. He dropped Lynn onto the field. And when he landed, he he shifted to human. He stepped toward her. She stepped backward, her hands raised. Anger boiled deep, body temperature rising. The skin on his forearms and thighs bubbled.
You were forbidden to leave the mansion.
Lynn wiped tears from her cheeks. She shook her head. I just wanted to say goodbye. Then she told me to leave and that she never wanted to see me again. His mate shuddered, and Isaac struggled to control his resolve not to string her from the nearest tree. He reminded himself that she was still a whelp, young and naive. She was my mother, but she talked to me as if I was a stranger.
Your caregiver knew she was in danger.
His mate stepped back, covering the sides of her face with her hands.
Ira told you it was forbidden to seek out your mother, yet you did it and endangered both of us.
Claws returned to fingertips. He gripped her by the neck, lifting her from the ground. Her feet swung while her hands clutched at his forearms.
You will not disobey me again. In time, you will come to know why obeying me is important for our survival. It is the way of the Geminis. I am the master of all creatures large and small, including you.
He picked her up by her hair and held her at eye level, feet inches off the ground.
You are mine, and you will do as I command.
Another nod. Lowering her to her feet, he palmed the back of her head and forced her to her knees. He thrust her head to the ground in a low bow.
You understand me?
As she planted kisses on top of his feet, her essence rolled off her in waves, a delicious scent that shot straight to his cock.
Time to complete the fusing.
From around his neck, he removed the black Narkush stone Galmoria had given him. The stone glowed, pulsing like an organ. He shoved the jewel into her chest. It burned into her flesh. Lynn howled.
One final step remains before your vixenhood is upon you.
Trumpets should have resounded, and festivities should have been planned to celebrate the glorious birth of a vixen. But fate had other plans. A private ceremony deep within the forest. His mate looked up, bewilderment clear in her expression. Isaac offered his hand, and she quickly accepted. He eyed her red silk gown. The flimsy material clung to her breasts and hips. She responded with her own satisfied purr. Wings grew from her back, and the dress shed from her body. A beautiful, magnificent snout. Fur blanketed her body. Complete in her metamorphosis, She stood on 4 legs, snorted, and shook her head. Isaac morphed into his natural form. He circled her, lips dripping with saliva, cock dripping with seed. He sprang, tackling her. With a snapping jaw, Isaac nipped at her neck, while his paws parried her retaliating swipes. He mounted her back and bit into her shoulder. And then he thrust, burying himself inside her, taking his vixen as his mate. The forest shook. A concert of animal and vermin alike. A warm, humid breeze swirled, and a cyclone of wind embraced him and his mate. Elemental air guarded their sacred consummation. Lightning flickered across the now blackened sky. Webs of electricity drew the archaic symbol of the Geminis. The animals. The vermin. The winds. The lightning. Isaac and his mate had their celebration after all. As his seed streamed inside of her, he licked the fur on the back of her neck. The barbs in his tongue drew a line of blood in her leathery skin. Both his mate and he shifted into humanoid form. Isaac kissed her gently and stood.
Come with me, my eternal mistress. We must find the beloved and your new vessel.
With the back of his gloved hand, Shane wiped sweat from his forehead. He glanced at the eerie lightning in the darkening sky. Not this freaky shit again. So the next time one of those jack-offs gives you any grief, you lay their ass out just like I taught you. He tossed his gloves to the ground and from a low branch plucked his shirt. Got it? Yeah, sure. The kid hadn't exerted enough energy to even break a sweat. He couldn't teach him more lethal moves, like how to strike the nose with a flat-handed jab, or where the vital pressure points were, but the basics would do. For now. Why do people have to fight? Scooter pulled his gloves off. Why can't people be smarter than that? Shane sighed. America wouldn't even exist if no one fought and stood up for their principles. Was it principles Americans were protecting when they stole this land from the natives? I'm not looking to debate the morality of war. I just don't want people beating on you for the rest of your life, and I want you to want that too. I do want it. Prove it. With a lift of his chin, Shane gestured to the gloves on the ground. Put those back on. Let's go another 20 minutes. Birch's motorcycle sped down the driveway. Lifting his Marvin the Martian helmet off, he asked, "We riding?" "Just teaching Scooter how to beat some ass." "Say, Jamie boy, could Scooter show you what he's learned?" Birch craned his neck. He took a goofy stance and formed a blade hand. "Why, yeah! Young grasshoppers must know not to start fights that they cannot win. And Scooter-san may well perish if he dare touches Sensei Birch." "How the fuck did I end up with you two weirdos?" "Is Master Baker not pleased?" Birch bowed. Shane thumped Birch's skull. "Never lower your eyes to the enemy, dumbass." He waved Scooter off. "We're done for today." "Not sure I'm up for riding." Birch sat on the hood of Shane's truck. "What plagues thee, Master Baker?" Shane eyed Birch. "Too much. Got it. Toning it down." "Not in the mood. Not today." "Let's play a game." Birch hopped from the hood and onto his bike. "Bet I got you beat." "You lost me." "Bet my life sucks more than yours." "Sure, I'll play." "My wife is fucking my brother. How's that for messed up?" "Amy's as crazy as Aunt Carol. She's hearing voices. Fucked up, but no contest. I got you beat." Shane concentrated on the edge of Sacred Oaks, but all he saw was his fist pounding a faceless, imaginary man. A man named Tobias. Birch killed the engine. "Voices, huh? Yeah, she's losing it. You think it's that schizophrenic stuff? Maybe I can have her committed for testing and they can figure out what's wrong with her. That might be best. I'm going to grab a drink and then we'll ride. I need to clear my head." "You're wrong." Scooter dashed down the walkway, waving a large knife. "She's not crazy. Tobias is real and he sent her this dagger." Shane took the blade. The name Tobias was emblazoned into the handle. "Where'd this come from?" "Abe gave it to her." "Tobias is real." Atticus kept his stance against the man dressed in black. The stranger took a drink and smacked his lips. "Good stuff." "I'll take your word on that, sir." "Aren't you curious?" The stranger lifted the bottle and swished the clear liquid. "Name?" "Most call it water. Some know it as H2O. I just know it is boring as fuck, but the side effects sure beat that of a fifth of tequila. Sober now 7 years, 4 weeks, and 3 days. Atticus shook his head, sheathed his sword. "I have no time. Good day." He turned and strode toward the street, away from the shadows of the alleyway. A loud, wet noise made Atticus whirl around. The man had placed a heavy boot over the remains of the fugitive worm. "How goes the hunt for the beast?" "What do you know of the beast?" "Come with me, Atticus. I've got something to show you." "Are you a seeker?" "Name's Howard. Now come step inside my van and let me show you something that will interest you a great deal." Atticus followed the man down to a cul-de-sac at the end of the street. An unmarked black van was parked in the gravel lot. It resembled a cluttered office with a desk, lamp, and coffee pot. Papers were scattered across the desk, and more papers and charts were stuck to the side of the van, even on the tinted windows. After I learned that Rorn had passed from this world, I began re-examining the astrological signs. Howard pointed at a chart on the van wall. It was divided into several dozen slices with a secondary circle in the center of the main circle. And I have discovered something that the Templar courts missed 17 years ago. Rorn and you were born the same night at almost precisely the same time. You were born under the sign of champions when the Sun, Mercury, and Earth aligned. That's correct. All according to the prophecies of when the twin warriors were born. I studied yours and Rorn's birth and the alignments of that night. You were born moments after Rorn, right as the Sun, Mercury, and Earth perfectly aligned. Rorn was born exactly 1 minute too early to have been born under the sign of the champion. That's ridiculous. 1 minute should not change Rorn's status as my twin. Not true. Even a minute earlier or later would have changed the legitimacy of the birth. Then who is my twin? I asked myself that same question, and so I studied another person's date of birth, someone who was born 27 years ago. And I discovered that the day he was born there was also an alignment of the Sun, Mercury, and Earth. A person born 27 years ago? What incarnations compelled you to look at this person? Because he is a paladin, and also my son. His name is Shane Baker, and he lives right here in Buckeye. Impossible. How can he be a paladin if he is not a member of an order? Because I defected with my family. I wanted him and my other children to grow up like normal, all-American kids. Rorn was not Atticus's twin. His twin was not even a member of the Order. He hadn't been trained by the wisest of elders. He was an outsider who knew nothing of their cause, of their culture, of their values. Atticus gave the charts on the van's wall a cursory glance before his attention returned to Howard. Have you been inside that house? Negative. I'm only authorized to watch from a distance and report back. You're the field operative. They only sent me as a one-man reconnaissance team. They won't let me slay the beast alone, only to track him to his haven. Yeah? But they gave you that fancy sword and a pretty pendant to wear around your neck. Me? I'm a washed-up Dick Tracy living in a run-down van. How did you find out about the murder here? It's my job to follow breadcrumbs from a comfy vantage point. After you reported back that an adult female was missing from the last crime scene, I did some digging. The missing woman's name is Lynn Renee Rice, and that house was occupied by her mother. Look here. Howard pointed at his computer screen and clicked a few buttons, and several high-quality images of a woman were on the screen. She was on a motorcycle racing down the street. She was standing on the doorsteps of the house. She was leaving the scene with fresh blood caked all over her body. That's the female. That's right. Inside the house, there was a message written in blood. Die, beloved, die. Howard looked to the computer monitor. A threat against something or someone. A beloved one, he typed. What are you doing? I am Googling beloved. My God. Beloved is associated with the name Amy from Latin origins. Why is that alarming? Because she is Shane's girlfriend. The female beast wishes to kill this Amy? It appears that way. Do you know where I can find Amy? Of course. She was called in to work the late shift at Roxy's this evening. Then I must go immediately. Atticus, do not tell my son about me. Roxy's bus stop diner.